Imagine a craftsman with a vision for a beautiful piece of art. But as he chisels, he makes a mistake. A crack appears. Now, what does he do? Does he throw away the piece, or does he find a way to work around it to build something remarkable from that imperfection? This, my friends, is the essence of learning from our mistakes. Mistakes are not a sign that we're broken. They're proof we're human. They are the cracks in the marble that reveal what still lies within. And if we're wise, if we're willing to pause and examine them, we'll uncover the lessons needed to carve something far more profound than what we first imagined. Now, I'll be honest with you. No one likes making mistakes. They can feel like failure, like something final. But the truth is, a mistake is only the beginning of something new. And here's the secret. You can let your mistakes become the end, or you can let them be the start of something better. Imagine if we looked at our mistakes as teachers. Imagine if each misstep taught us something we didn't know about ourselves, about others, or about life. The person who learns from a mistake is a person who grows. A person who ignores it, on the other hand, is bound to repeat it. And that's the real failure. Think about it. Some of our greatest lessons come not from the times we got it right, but from the times we stumbled. We are sharpened by our errors. If you've ever failed, congratulations, you're in good company. Every great leader, every great inventor, every person who has ever achieved anything worth achieving has a list of mistakes as long as their list of accomplishments. It's because they failed and learned and then tried again. They grew stronger, sharper, better, more resilient. Mistakes, in the end, are not only how we learn. They are how we become more than we were before. When you're faced with the fallout of a mistake, remember this. It's an invitation to change. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What will I do differently next time? You see, a wise person uses mistakes like a roadmap. They look back and realize that every wrong turn pointed them to the right road. Every dead end forced them to consider a new direction. Every closed door led to a new opportunity. And so, my friends, what if every mistake you've ever made was actually pointing you towards something better? What if every misstep was really just a step closer to the person you were meant to become? The next time you make a mistake, don't waste it. Don't be discouraged. Study it. Write down what went wrong and why. Reflect on it and turn it into your blueprint for success. And remember, a mistake is only a failure if you don't learn from it. Take it in, embrace it, own it, and let it mold you into something more, something greater. You see, mistakes are a part of life. They come uninvited, show up unannounced, and often catch us off guard. Now, most people would like to avoid mistakes, dodge them, skip past them, sweep them under the rug, and pretend they never happened. But let me tell you something. Mistakes are not your enemies. Mistakes are some of your greatest allies in the pursuit of personal development. They are there to guide you, to teach you, to shape you, and to make you stronger than you were before. Now, I know what you're thinking. Jim, mistakes are painful, they're embarrassing, they bring disappointment and regret, and I won't disagree with you on that. Mistakes can feel like a heavy weight, a burden you carry around. But here's the truth. Mistakes are also opportunities in disguise. They are life's way of nudging you, of saying, pay attention, look here, learn this lesson. Every mistake carries within it a precious gem of wisdom, a new insight, a piece of knowledge that, if grasped, can change the course of your life. Take a moment to imagine if you could see each mistake as a gift. What if every wrong step, every error, every stumble could be transformed into a stepping stone that moves you closer to your dreams? Suddenly, your mistakes don't look so intimidating, do they? Now they become tools, powerful tools that you can use to grow, to adapt, to strengthen, and to improve. And let me tell you something else. Mistakes make you relatable. They remind you that you're human, just like everyone else. When you own your mistakes, people see you as authentic, as genuine, as someone who is real. We all know someone who never admits a mistake, who always has an excuse or points fingers at others. But those people don't inspire us, do they? The people who inspire us are the ones who can say, I messed up, but I learned from it. And here's what I'm doing to make it right. Those are the people we respect, the people we want to follow, the people who show us that growth is possible. Now let's talk about how to learn from your mistakes effectively. First, you must acknowledge the mistake. Don't try to sweep it under the rug. Don't deny it, and don't pretend it didn't happen. If you've made a mistake, own up to it. Say to yourself, yes, I did that. I made that choice. I took that action. Owning a mistake doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means you're brave enough to face the truth. The next step is to analyze the mistake. Look at it from every angle. Ask yourself some important questions. What went wrong? Why did it go wrong? Were there warning signs I missed? Were there decisions I could have made differently? Don't be afraid to dissect the situation. The more you understand it, the more you'll learn from it. Analysis is not about blaming yourself. It's about understanding, about gaining insights that will prevent you from making the same mistake again. Then take responsibility. This is crucial. Responsibility is the foundation of learning. When you take responsibility, you take control, you stop being a victim of circumstance, and you become a student of life. Responsibility means saying, I made this mistake, but I'm going to make it right. I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to grow because of it. Once you've taken responsibility, it's time to create a plan of action. This is where the real growth happens. Decide what changes you need to make. Maybe you need to develop a new skill, adopt a new habit, or approach things differently. Whatever it is, make a commitment to yourself that you will take action, that you will do better next time. Don't just make promises. Make a plan. Write it down. Look at it every day. Keep yourself accountable. And finally, forgive yourself. Let me say that again. Forgive yourself. Too many people make a mistake and then punish themselves over and over again. They carry guilt, regret, and shame like a heavy weight, dragging it with them wherever they go. But that's not learning from your mistake. That's allowing your mistake to control you. Forgiving yourself doesn't mean you forget the lesson. It means you let go of the pain. It means you allow yourself to move forward, to grow, to become. Let's talk about some of the amazing things that happen when you learn from your mistakes. When you start to see mistakes as learning opportunities, you become a more confident person. You stop fearing failure because you know that even if things don't go as planned, there's something valuable to gain. You become more courageous, more willing to take risks, to step outside your comfort zone because you know that mistakes aren't the end, they're just another step in the journey. You also become a more effective problem solver. Each mistake teaches you a lesson, and over time, those lessons accumulate. You become wiser, more insightful, more capable of handling whatever life throws at you. You start to see patterns, to recognize pitfalls before you fall into them. Your judgment improves, your decisions become sharper, and your results become better. And perhaps most importantly, learning from mistakes brings a sense of fulfillment. There's something incredibly rewarding about growth, about becoming a better person. When you look back on your journey, when you see how far you've come, how much you've grown, you'll feel a sense of pride, of accomplishment, of joy. You'll know that every mistake you made was worth it because it led you to where you are now. So my friends, let me leave you with this. Mistakes are not to be feared. They are to be embraced. They are the teachers that show up in your life to guide you, to mold you, to help you become the best version of yourself. The path to success is not a straight line. It's a winding road filled with twists and turns, with obstacles and setbacks, but each setback is an opportunity, each obstacle a lesson, each mistake a stepping stone on the path to greatness. Don't hide from your mistakes. Don't run from them. Face them, learn from them, grow from them, and watch as your life transforms as you move closer to your dreams, one lesson at a time. Embrace your mistakes, learn from them, and become the person. Now, I understand that learning from your mistakes isn't glamorous, and it certainly isn't easy. Nobody enjoys facing the times they fell short. But consider this. Every great achiever, every success story, every overnight sensation who has risen to the top, at some point they were right where you are. At some point they made a decision that didn't work out. They tried something that didn't pan out the way they envisioned. But do you know what set them apart? It wasn't that they avoided mistakes. It was that they allowed their mistakes to teach them a tool for growth. Mistakes are natural, they're inevitable, and they're incredibly human. If you're striving for something greater, if you're reaching for your best self, you're bound to make mistakes. It's part of the process. But think of mistakes as feedback rather than failure. Life has a funny way of nudging you, of giving you hints and clues about what's working and what isn't. Sometimes it nudges you with a whisper, and other times it nudges you with a sledgehammer, but it's still feedback. Valuable feedback if you're willing to listen. Each mistake is a mirror showing us our strengths and our weaknesses. It reflects our attitudes, our behaviors, our blind spots. But we have to look in the mirror and face what we see. That's the first step. A mistake that doesn't lead to a lesson is simply a wasted opportunity. And if you're making mistakes, it's often because you're stepping outside of your comfort zone. You're daring to venture into the unknown, trying something new, something that may seem a little out of reach. That's where growth happens. Growth doesn't happen in safety, in security, in the familiar. It happens when you stretch, when you take risks, and when you step into unfamiliar territory. And yes, sometimes it means making mistakes along the way. But what would life be if we played it so safe that we never experienced a setback? We wouldn't grow, we wouldn't improve, and we certainly wouldn't discover our true potential. Six sides of the same coin. If you look at some of the greatest success stories, you'll see a common theme. Failure. Not just one failure, but often multiple, sometimes an entire string of them. Take any success story. Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey, Thomas Edison, and you'll find a person who learned from their mistakes, each and every one. They didn't reach success because they sidestepped mistakes. They reached it because they made mistakes and chose to find the lesson in each one. Thomas Edison, for instance, famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Imagine if he'd stopped at the first failure, the first 100 failures, or even the first 9,000 failures. Would he have ever invented the light bulb? He was committed to learning, to adjusting, to refining his approach until he finally got it right. Mistakes teach you what doesn't work. And when you know what doesn't work, you get closer to what does. It's a process of elimination. Each misstep narrows down the field, getting you one step closer to success. But it takes a commitment to learn. It takes courage to say, yes, I failed, but I'm going to try again. And this time I'm going to do it better. That's where the magic lies. Turning mistakes into masterpieces. Now I want you to think about this. Your mistakes have value, but only if you treat them like investments. When you make a mistake, it's as if you've paid a certain price. Now it would be a shame if you paid that price and walked away empty-handed. Instead, you need to look for the return on investment. What did this mistake teach you? What insight did it give you? What new awareness has it brought to your life? If you treat each mistake as an investment, you won't fear them as much. You'll look at them as opportunities for growth, for understanding, for wisdom. It's the difference between someone who stumbles and stays down and someone who stumbles, gets up, dusts themselves off, and asks, what can I take from this? One turns a mistake into a stumbling block. The other turns it into a stepping stone. And life will give you as many stones as you need. But it's up to you whether they lead you forward or keep you stuck. Change the narrative. Many people shy away from learning from their mistakes because they fear what it says about them. They think, I failed. I'm a failure. But that's not true, not even close. A failure is something you experience, not something you are. We must change that narrative. A mistake doesn't define you. It refines you. It's a single moment in time, not your entire story, but only if you let it be. Only if you choose to move forward with a new understanding, with a new commitment to do things differently. When you make a mistake, there's no need to wallow in it or to let it shackle you to the past. No, acknowledge it, accept it, and ask yourself, how can I make sure this mistake doesn't become a pattern? That's the question that sets you free. That's the question that breaks the chains and allows you to step into the next chapter wiser and stronger. Mistakes, as part of the success equation, success isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about what you do with the mistakes you make. It's about learning, growing, and moving forward. Success is about resilience, about bouncing back, about refusing to let a single setback stop you from reaching your goals. It's about pressing forward, knowing that each mistake you learn from brings you one step closer to your dream. Mistakes are not the end of the road. They're simply a bend in the road. They're a part of the journey. Each one is an experience that shapes who you are and what you become. And the best part, you're in control of how you respond to each one. You're in control of whether you let it hold you back or propel you forward. If you fall, get back up. If you fail, try again. If you mess up, learn from it. And remember, there's no shame in making a mistake. The only shame is in refusing to learn from it. Building a legacy of learning. If you want to create a legacy, if you want to build a life that's meaningful and impactful, learn to embrace your mistakes as part of the process. Don't hide from them. Don't pretend they didn't happen. Face them head on with courage and let them mold you into a stronger, wiser, and better version of yourself. Because at the end of the day, it's not about perfection, it's about progress, it's about resilience. It's about becoming someone who can rise above their mistakes and keep moving forward with strength, purpose, and grace. So the next time you make a mistake, and trust me, there will be a next time. Don't beat yourself up. Don't dwell on it. Don't let it hold you back. Instead, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this to become better, stronger, wiser? Embrace the lesson, take it to heart, and let it be the fuel that drives you forward. Remember, life is a journey, not a destination. Along the way, you'll stumble, you'll fall, and yes, you'll make mistakes, but if you're willing to learn from each one, you'll discover that every mistake, every misstep, every setback is actually setting you up for something greater. Embrace them. Learn from them, and keep moving forward knowing that your best days are still ahead. Now, why do we make mistakes in the first place? Sometimes it's due to a lack of knowledge, sometimes it's a lack of experience, and sometimes, well, we just weren't paying attention. And that's okay. That's where we all start. You see, in every field, in every endeavor, from the artist to the entrepreneur, from the student to the seasoned professional, everyone starts with gaps in knowledge. No one's immune. And our mistakes are simply a reflection of where we are in the learning process. Think of them as feedback, not failure. A mistake is just a way of life saying, let me show you where you can improve. It's like a signpost on the road, not the end of the road. The first step in using mistakes to our advantage is this. We have to own them. You have to own your mistakes fully and completely. No hiding, no blaming, no shifting responsibility to someone else. Because when we do that, we rob ourselves of the lesson. Jim Rohn used to say, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. And to get better, we have to admit when we weren't at our best, even if it's uncomfortable. Admitting a mistake doesn't make you weak. In fact, it's a sign of strength. It shows that you're willing to stand in front of your choices, your actions, and say, this one's on me. When you own it, you're taking the first step in transforming that mistake into wisdom. And this leads us to our second step. After owning your mistake, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Don't just make the mistake and move on. No, that's a waste. Mistakes are a rich resource, a treasure trove of knowledge. They hold insights about what to avoid, what to improve, where to focus. This is your chance to dig deep, to really dissect what went wrong and find the golden nugget of wisdom within it. If you've ever heard the phrase, don't let a good crisis go to waste, I'd like to add to it, don't let a good mistake go to waste. Extract the lessons at hand. Remember a story about Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb? He made thousands of attempts to get that one invention, right? People around him were skeptical. They called him a failure. But he saw things differently. When someone asked him how it felt to fail over 1,000 times, he replied, I haven't failed 1,000 times. I've just found 1,000 ways that don't work. That's the attitude of someone who understands the value of learning from mistakes. Each failed attempt taught him something valuable, something that brought him closer to success. Edison didn't treat his mistakes as defeats. He treated them as research. When you make a mistake, you have a choice. You can either beat yourself up over it, or you can ask yourself, what is this mistake here to teach me? Because life is always teaching us if we're willing to listen. But sometimes people don't listen. They're too busy beating themselves up, replaying the failure in their mind, living in regret. Regret is a heavy emotion, my friends. Regret is draining, and it's distracting. Don't let regret steal the opportunity to learn. Yes, feel the disappointment. That's only human. But then let it go. After all, Jim Rohn taught us that disappointment is inevitable, but misery is optional. Choose to move forward, armed with a new knowledge, not burdened by regret. Think of your mistakes as stepping stones, each one bringing you closer to where you want to go. Just as you wouldn't let a single stumble on a staircase prevent you from reaching the top, don't let a single mistake stop you from moving forward in life. Each mistake is one step closer, one lesson closer to the person you're becoming. Mistakes refine us, they test us, and they make us stronger if we let them. You see, the only true mistake is the one we don't learn from. Imagine if every time you stumbled, you learned something that helped you avoid that mistake in the future. You'd be unstoppable. Make adjustments. Once you've identified what went wrong and learned from it, take action. Correct your course. If you've realized that you didn't prepare enough, next time prepare twice as much. If you spoke without thinking, next time take a breath before responding. Each mistake offers us the chance to adjust and improve. There's a saying that I love: wisdom is knowing what to do next. Virtue is doing it. Knowing where you went wrong is the wisdom. Taking steps to correct it, that's virtue. And every time you apply what you've learned, you build a new level of confidence. Confidence in your ability to navigate the twists and turns of life. As Jim Rohn would say, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. So imagine every time you make a mistake, you're adding one more discipline to your life. You're fortifying your character. You're becoming more resilient. That's what growth looks like. It's not about never falling down. It's about getting up every single time, a little stronger, a little wiser. Life will keep throwing lessons our way, and sometimes they'll come wrapped in them. But remember, these moments don't define us. Our response does. Are you going to complain about the mistake, or are you going to use it to fuel your growth? People often shy away from making decisions because they're afraid of making a mistake. But let me tell you, inaction can sometimes be the biggest mistake of all. When you're so afraid of making a wrong move that you make no move, you're denying yourself the chance to learn, to grow, to get better. So make a choice, make a move, take a step forward. Yes, it might lead to a mistake, but it might also lead to success. Either way, you'll come out of it with more knowledge, more insight, and more clarity about what to do next. So don't fear the mistake. Fear standing still. Fear stagnation, fear indecision, but never fear the lessons that come from trying. Finally, let's talk about the importance of forgiving ourselves, because mistakes can be hard to shake off, especially when we're deeply invested in what we do. Self-forgiveness is crucial. Understand that you did the best you could with the information, skills, and awareness you had at that moment. Once you've learned from your mistake and made the necessary adjustments, let it go. Jim Rohn used to say, take time to laugh. It's like inner job. I believe he was right. Learn to laugh at your mistakes too. See them for what they are. Moments of learning, not moments of failure. When you can look back and smile at your mistakes, you know you've learned the lesson they had to offer. As we wrap up, remember this: mistakes are part of the journey. They're part of the process of becoming the person you're meant to be. Embrace them, own them, learn from them, and then move forward wiser, more resilient, and more equipped to handle whatever life throws your way. Don't wish for a life without mistakes, because that would be a life without growth. Wish instead for the courage to learn from every stumble, every misstep, and to use them as fuel for your journey. Because in the end, it's not about avoiding mistakes, it's about learning from them and using that knowledge to shape your destiny. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not suggesting we go around actively seeking to make mistakes. No, no, no. Rather, I'm saying that mistakes are inevitable in the pursuit of anything worthwhile. Anyone who's built something of value, whether it's a thriving business, a great relationship, or a life of purpose has stumbled. They have missed the mark and fallen short at times, but the successful among us, the resilient ones, are those who look at every mistake, every misstep, as a learning experience, as tuition for the school of life. You see, the lesson you get from mistake is not something you'd find in a book or a classroom. There's a certain wisdom you gain only from experience. When you go out there and put yourself on the line, when you try something and fall short, you're creating an opportunity to grow in ways you might never have imagined. Take, for example, the story of Thomas Edison. He failed 1,000 times when inventing the light bulb. Can you imagine that? Most people would have thrown in the towel after 10 attempts, maybe even 50. But Edison kept going because he saw each failure as a step closer to his success. He said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Every failure brought him one step closer to illuminating the world. Think about the patience, the persistence, the determination that requires. Edison wasn't afraid to make mistakes because he saw the value in them. He saw mistakes not as setbacks, but as stepping stones. And we need to adopt the same mentality. It's too easy to let mistakes define us, to let them shrink us down, to let them weigh on our minds like chains, holding us back from taking action. Instead, we have to look at them with curiosity, even with gratitude. You have to say, thank you, mistake, for showing me a better way. Because that's what a mistake really is. It's feedback, it's information, it's the universe nudging you, saying, hey, that wasn't quite right. Try this instead. When you make a mistake and learn from it, you get better, you grow. Mistakes are how we develop resilience, and resilience is essential for anyone striving for greatness. Resilience is what helps you get up one more time than you've been knocked down. Mistakes don't defeat resilient people. No. Resilient people absorb their mistakes and allow them to make them stronger, smarter, wiser. Resilient people understand that every mistake carries within it a lesson, and every lesson makes them more capable than leaders. Now you might be thinking, Jim, that sounds nice, but how exactly do I learn from my mistakes? Good question. Learning from mistakes is not passive. It doesn't just happen. You have to be intentional about it. The first step is self-reflection. When you make a mistake, take the time to analyze it, sit down with yourself and ask, what went wrong? What could I have done differently? Don't rush through this process. The insight you gain from self-reflection is priceless. And listen, don't be too hard on yourself in this reflection process. Yes, be honest, be thorough, but don't beat yourself up. Mistakes don't make you a bad person. They make you human. We're all out here trying our best, navigating through life with limited information and doing what we think is best. The goal isn't to avoid every possible mistake. That's unrealistic. The goal is to take ownership, to acknowledge our role, and to see what we can do better next time. After you've reflected on your mistake, share what you've learned. Too often, people hide their mistakes, embarrassed by them, afraid that others will judge them. But I'm telling you, there's strength in vulnerability. When you share your mistakes with others, you open up the door for connection. You say to the world, hey, I'm human just like you. I'm learning just like you. You give others permission to learn from their own mistakes. You create a culture of growth, a community of learners. And don't just share your mistakes. Celebrate the lessons you've learned from them. Every time you make a mistake and learn from it, you are becoming a better, stronger version of yourself. You're moving one step closer to the person you're meant to be. Celebrate that. Let every mistake you make be a reason to grow and an opportunity to get closer to your goals. Now, let me tell you another story. There was once a young man who worked tirelessly at his first job. He was eager to impress his boss, determined to climb the ladder of success. But one day, he made a big mistake, a mistake that cost the company a significant amount of money. He was devastated, certain he would be fired. But his boss saw something different. Instead of reprimanding him, his boss said, I just invested in your education. I could fire you and let this investment go to waste, or I could let you learn from this and become better. That young man went on to become one of the most successful leaders in his company, all because he learned from his mistake and used it to fuel his growth. But his boss had fired him. What if he had let that mistake be the end of his career? He would have missed out on his potential, his greatness. And here's the thing, many people are doing just that. They're letting their mistakes be the end of their dreams, the end of their efforts. They're giving up too soon. But I'm here to tell you, don't let your mistakes hold you back. Let them push you forward. People who are truly successful, truly fulfilled, understand that mistakes are an integral part of the journey. They know that every time they fail, they're getting closer to success. They know that the only true failure is to stop trying. They keep going, they keep pushing, they keep learning. And because of that, they achieve things that others only dream of. Right there and make mistakes. Yes, you heard me right. Make mistakes, not because you're careless, not because you're not paying attention, but because you're willing to risk something for the sake of learning and growing. And when you do make a mistake, don't waste it. Extract every ounce of wisdom from it. Turn it into fuel for your fire. Turn it into strength for your journey. Remember, mistakes are not the enemy. Fear of making mistakes, that's the enemy. Because fear paralyzes you. Fear stops you from taking action, from stepping out of your comfort zone. But when you embrace mistakes, when you accept them as part of the process, you free yourself from that fear. You open up the door to courage, to confidence, to growth. So the next time you make a mistake, don't shrink from it. Stand tall, look it in the eye and say, "Thank you, mistake, for showing me a better way." And then get back on the path with even more determination, even more focus, even more resolve, because that's what winners do. Winners learn from their mistakes. Winners grow from their setbacks. Winners turn their failures into stepping stones, and that, my friends, is how you turn a mistake into success. Let's not make the mistake of thinking that perfection is the goal. The goal is progress. The goal is growth. The goal is to keep getting better every day, every step, every mistake. When you adopt this mindset, you become unstoppable. You become resilient. And you start to see that every mistake is just another opportunity for greatness. Now, why is this so important? Because mistakes aren't failures. I want you to hear that again. Mistakes are not failures. Mistakes are just moments when the reality doesn't quite match our expectations. And in that gap, in that difference, in that space between what we expected and what we actually experienced, lies an opportunity. It's a chance to change, to grow, to adjust. But only if we decide to see it that way. Too many people think mistakes are just obstacles. But that's not true. Mistakes aren't walls. They're stepping stones. Think of them as little markers on the path. Every misstep, every error, every blunder is there to show you the way forward. It's feedback from life. It's the universe telling you, look, this didn't work. Now go try something different. It says another person who refuses to learn from their mistakes will find themselves making the same mistakes again and again. It's inevitable. If we don't change something after an error, we're bound to repeat it. Life will say, all right, you didn't learn that time. Well, here's that situation again. And guess what? It will be even harder to bear, even tougher to manage the next time around, because now we know we've had the opportunity to change, but we didn't. Let's take a closer look at how to learn from our mistakes, step by step, and really make it part of our lives. The first step is simple, but not easy. Admit the mistake. And I mean really admit it, not just to others, but to yourself. Don't cover it up. Don't rationalize it. Don't make excuses for it. Own it. You'd be amazed at how many people spend their whole lives running from their mistakes, blaming other people, blaming the world, when in reality, all they need to do is look in the mirror and say, that was on me. That was mine. Now, this can be uncomfortable. Nobody wants to be wrong, and nobody wants to make mistakes. But growth requires honesty, and honesty starts with admitting that sometimes we don't have all the answers. Sometimes we take a wrong turn, and that's okay. Owning up to your mistakes doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong. It shows you have the courage to confront reality, the guts to face yourself. And when you can do that, You're already a mile ahead of the person who's busy hiding from the truth. Once you've admitted the mistake, the next step is to analyze it. Sit down with yourself and really break it down. Ask yourself what went wrong. Why did I make that choice? What was I thinking? What was I feeling? Was I influenced by fear? Was I acting out of impatience? Did I neglect something important? The key here is not to judge yourself, but to understand yourself. You're not doing this to beat yourself up. You're doing it to understand the root of the issue so that you don't repeat it. Think of it this way. Mistakes are just feedback, and feedback is neutral. It's simply information. When a machine malfunctions, it doesn't feel ashamed. It just sends out an error message. And the engineer looks at that error message, fixes the issue, and keeps going. Treat yourself with the same compassion, the same patience. A mistake isn't a reflection of your worth. It's simply a guide on how to improve as you go forward. Remember this. Learning from mistakes is one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself. It's not easy. It's not comfortable. It requires honesty, humility, patience, and a willingness to face reality. But if you can do it, if you can truly learn from your mistakes, there's no limit to what you can achieve. You'll find yourself growing in ways you never thought possible. You'll find yourself becoming more resilient, more resourceful, more capable. Mistakes are part of life's curriculum. They're not there to trip you up. They're there to build you up. So the next time you find yourself facing a mistake, don't get discouraged. Don't beat yourself up. And whatever you do, don't give up. Learn the lesson, make the adjustment, and move forward with the confidence of someone who knows that every misstep is one step closer to success. And let me tell you this, if you make learning from your mistakes a habit, a practice, a principle in your life, you will stand out from the crowd because most people don't do it. Most people would rather avoid their mistakes, cover them up, or pretend they don't exist. But not you. You're different. You're the type of person who understands that mistakes aren't failures. They're teachers. And with every lesson you learn, with every adjustment you make, you are building a life of strength, resilience, and success. What will you learn from your next mistake? What lesson will you uncover? What path will you take? Don't shy away from the answer. Embrace it, because when you learn from your mistakes, you are unstoppable.